Добрый день, уважаемые пользователи и гости рекомендательного сервиса Имханет. С вами сегодня Сергей Гордеев, а беседовать мы будем с легендарным аргентинским писателем и психотерапевтом, автором серии своеобразных путеводителей по жизни, Хорхе Букаем. Его новая книга «Все не закончено» выходит в России через несколько дней, а позже этим летом выйдут 3 другие книги автора «Идти дальше без себя», «Путь слез» и «Путь столкновений». Добрый день, Хорхе. Спасибо, что согласились принять участие в нашей видеовстрече. Итак, начнем. Хорхе, вы звезда современной аргентинской литературы. Ваши книги переведены на 18 языков мира, а их общий тираж превышает 2 миллиона экземпляров. Вы пишете о психологии, даже составили некий путеводитель по человеческой жизни. В чем секрет успеха ваших книг и чем они особенны? Что их выделяет из большого числа подобных? Jorge, you are a star of contemporary Argentinian literature, and your books have been translated to 18 languages around the world, and over 2 million copies were sold. You write about psychology. You even created a guidebook on human life. And what is the secret of the success of your books? And what is special about them? And what makes them different from a large number of similar books?
I'm very sorry to say that I don't know. Really, I don't know. Because I think that maybe you have to ask that things to the readers and not to the writers, because a writer never knows how is that of the success, how happens, how it comes, especially when the writer is not really a writer. I like to say that I'm a psychotherapist that writes, and not a writer that is incidentally a psychotherapist. My work is as a therapist. I'm a medical doctor, I'm a psychiatrist, I work in health. I work with patients and with non-patients, and I write just as a way of giving the others some tools that were useful for me. But I'm not especially a writer, and I feel very proud that you put me as a literature icon in Argentina, because literature it's another thing for me. It's the people that I read. Literature is for Borges and for Gabriel Garcia Marquez, and for Dostoevsky, and I don't want to be in the same club with them because I feel ashamed of that, you know.
Ну, то, что вы пишете, это все-таки есть определенный, может быть, это не художественная литература, но это очень важный вид литературы. What you do write, it is literature. It's just a special kind of literature. It's not maybe artistic or fiction literature, but it's very important and it helps people. Ну, а теперь давайте поговорим о вас. Перед тем, как прийти в психологию, вы перепробовали практически все. Вы работали камевояжером, таксистом, страховым агентом, учителем, клоуном, доктором, телерадиожурналистом и, наконец, психологом и психиатром. Что, собственно, вас и привело в психологию? So I guess now we'll talk about you. Before coming into psychology, you've tried practically everything. You've worked as a traveling salesman, as a taxi driver, as an insurance agent, a teacher, a clown, a doctor, a TV and radio journalist, and finally a psychologist and a psychiatrist. So what led you to psychology?
I was always very proud of being a medical doctor. I was always trying to help the people since I was very young. My mother told me that when I was 5 or 6, usually we came up with some people that had a problem, or he was ill, or he has a difficulty to walk. And my mother told me that I used to sit down in the floor and cry for a while because of my moving emotion about the suffering of the others. When I was studying medicine, I was trying to be a pediatric, a doctor of children, you know. But then I realized that children was so hard to work with because children get ill and children get died, and I suppose of myself that I wouldn't dare to stand that suffering. And so I suppose that maybe I can work as a psychiatrist of children. But in Argentina, to be a children's psychiatrist, child psychiatrist, you have to be a psychiatrist first. And so I began studying psychiatry just to be a psychiatrist of children, and it was such a fascinating life with the patients. It was so grateful and so nice to work with them that I never get out of it. Because I got there because, you know, something of the work was so fascinating to me that I would go ahead working with adults and with couples for the rest of my life.
Ну, это интересно. Вот вы сказали, что все-таки вы начали свою деятельность вот из того, что вы хотели все-таки детям помочь. Вот почему, что вас так, ну как бы, почему вас так тянет к детям или тянуло? So you're saying that you started with your fascination with children. What is it about children that was really interesting for you?
I work with children since I was very young. You know, in my early work as a clown, in my works as animating younger people parties, that was a work for me, and I enjoyed very much working with them. I think that maybe now that I'm not so child, now I realize that maybe my inner child, it was there asking for some attention, you know, and so maybe paying attention for the children around, I was taking care of my own child inside. But anyway, that's an intellectual explanation. I love children. I think that their life is our future. I think that we have to do things for them. I think that we depend on they depend on the word that we leave to them, and so they are such a song to life and to nature and to our possibility of enjoying life, that I was since ever fascinated with their life and doing something for their benefit.
Ну, если вы не возражаете, я хотел бы вас спросить про ваших детей, если они у вас есть, и про вашу семью, про вашу личную жизнь. If you don't mind me asking, I'd like to ask you about your children and your life, your family, if you have one, and just how has it been a part of your work?
Yes, I have been. Yes, I have been married for 40 years. Always with the same, as I always said. That's strange. I have 2 children, not so children now. They are medical doctors, both. Demian, that is my older one, it's a psychiatrist like me, and Claudia is a cardiologist.
А скажите, вот ваш сын тоже психиатр. Как вы думаете, ваша деятельность профессиональная повлияла на это его решение стать психиатром? What do you think? Do you think your work as a psychiatrist influenced Damien's decision to become one too?
I hope so, really. I'm not ashamed of that. I think that being a medical doctor is the best thing that one person can be in their life. You know, I have been seeing such many patients when I have a counsel and the people came to see me and they complain about, you know, I have 2 children and I have a big industry, a big shop, and no of them can get with it long, and nobody can continue my work. I'm so sad, and they complain about that. And I used to tell them, tell me something, when you arrive home from your place of work, what did you say to your children? I'm happy, my work is fantastic, or did you say, oh, I cannot stand it anymore, I'm blamed with the people, with the taxis, with the personnel, with my friends, with everyone, I don't want to work, oh, that's very fast, do it. No, I said that, they said. So, how it's strange for you that he doesn't want to come with the same thing that you do. I always came to my house with a smile, you know, blessing God for having that kind of job. Maybe this was the point that influenced them to make that decision. I don't know. It wasn't my intention, but I know that I love what I do, that I enjoyed a lot, that was very wonderful for me or for my family having a work like mine. And you know, there is a privilege that I know that you have it too, you Sergey, you have it too, that is being paid for doing the thing that you most love in life to do. And it is a very, very nice privilege, and you have to be blessed for that, you know.
Абсолютно верно. На самом деле, вот эта тема благодарности, мы к ней еще вернемся в нашей передаче. Вот, that's absolutely right. This is a topic of gratefulness. We will come back to it later in our conversation. А пока я хотел бы вас спросить вот о чем. Вот вы сказали, что, может быть, тот факт, что вы возвращались с работы такой счастливый и радостный, что вам нравилась ваша работа, и, может быть, это повлияло на ваших детей и на решение вашего сына тоже стать психиатром. Скажите, насколько вот наши родители нас определяют? Well, and specifically, you mentioned the fact that perhaps your coming home happy from your work may have influenced the decision of your son to become the same professional as you are. So in connection with that, how much are we defined by our parents? Who we are, how much is who we are defined by our parents?
I think that our parents have a great influence, and not only our parents, but everything that happens in our life, especially in the early days, especially in the first years of our life, when we cannot ask about things, we are very, very much influenced by them. In spite of that, it's not enough with the decision of the parent to ruin the life of their children, to ruin them. It's not enough. They have some more things to do with that. But I think that there is a big influence. You know, may I ask you something? Maybe you can understand. Let's ask that for everyone that is seeing this interview. May I ask it you, as if you were everybody that is seeing us? Do you take coffee sometimes?
Да, yes.
Sweet or not sweet?
Сахаром.
Soccer. Okay. May I ask you something? So, what do you think that makes the sweetness of the coffee? Putting the sugar or mixing it?
Ну, мне кажется, и то, и другое. Нужно и сахар положить, и размешать его. I think both things. You have to put the sugar and then you have to stir it.
But which is the one that makes it sweet?
Факт размешивания. Потому что если будет сахар, и он не будет размешан, то ты не почувствуешь его вкус. Perhaps it's the mixing, because if you have the sugar, but if you don't mix it in, you won't be able to feel the taste.
Okay, so there's no way of taking you in the trap of choosing one of those things, and that is the trap of choosing one thing is, what is the point? The point is the thing that you got with yourself when you are born, or the influence of your fathers. I can tell you, like sugar and mixing, both things. You know, you got some things in your own, and that's the sugar in the coffee. But if you don't mix it, then it won't suit the coffee. You have some things, but without the influence of your fathers, of your parents, maybe something will not go in the right way, maybe something will go in the wrong way. And that's mixing the things.
Ну, очень интересно. У вас вообще очень такой образный вид мышления, и это нас подводит собственно, к вашей книге. Вот в вашей книге «Все не закончено». У вас есть притча «Остров чувств», и в ней любовь, которая не желала покидать тонущий остров чувств, ее спасает старик время. И вы объясняете, что это единственный возможный вариант для того, чтобы любовь осталась жива. Вот. А в России, вот, например, существует народная мудрость, что клин клином вышибают, ну, то есть для того, чтобы избавиться от чего-то, нужно заменить его тем же самым. Что вы можете сказать по этому поводу? Вот это самообман или возможный вариант терапии? Well, you have a very kind of figurative way of thinking, your comparisons, and that takes us specifically to the book itself. It's not all over. And in the book, you have a fable in which love, that did not want to leave the island of the island of feelings, love is saved by the old man time. And you explain that this is the only possible way to make sure that love lives. But in Russia, there's a saying a wedge, it can only be displaced by another wedge, meaning you can only get rid of one thing by sort of inserting another. So what do you think about that? This kind of like Russian way of thinking, is that self-deception, or is it perhaps a valid way of therapy for yourself?
I don't think that it works for everyone. I think that maybe it works for someone. You know, you have some person to replace the other that has gone. And if I understand what you are telling about that kind of image, that you have to find another one to substitute, you mean, the one that you lose. But we have a problem with that psychologically, and I think that emotionally too, there is no substitution. You know, if we are friends, if we are a couple, if you are my daughter or my son or my father, you are not, nobody can take your place. Nobody can take. I can share with others the things that I shared with you, but you are not replaceable. You know, you cannot find no one that can replace you in my life if we are friends, and you will not find anyone that replaces me. You are unique, and I love you because you are unique, and maybe you love me because I am unique. For you, at least, I am unique. it will become another one. So of course, you can love another one. Of course. But first of all, thinking on loving another one, you have to know that you are able to love, and your place, the place that you had in my life is yours and will be yours forever. And it's no problem with that, because the place is not a whole, you know what you understand? It's not a whole. It's just a place where you are going to live in my life and with me, because you are part of my life, and I would not renounce of any part of my life if I am happy to be who I am.
Ну, это такой очень, знаете, не то чтобы идеальный вариант, но все-таки иногда приходится расстаться. И что же делать с теми чувствами любви, которые остаются с человеком, с которым приходится расстаться? Какие у вас есть мысли, рекомендации по этому поводу? Well, this is almost, an idealistic way to think, because, it would be wonderful to keep the love of everyone in your life, but sometimes we do have to separate, and unfortunately, that's what your book is about. So what do you have to say for those who do have to separate? How do you keep that love and sort of go on?
I want to say that I'm not speaking of the idealistic point of having the other forever. I'm speaking about the feeling, not the person. The person will go. The person will never go. There is one moment in life when you will leave the other, or the other will leave you. You're not going to be together forever, and I know that. But one thing is the other, another thing is your feeling. I'm saying that your feeling for the other is for the other, and you cannot jump from other to other. When I don't love you anymore, so I will not love you anymore. I will love this man in the same place that you have. That's no way to do it. No way to do it. That's not like that. It doesn't happen like that. Because loving is not an empty cube that you have to empty it to fulfill with another one. The love for you, and the love for other, and the love for the next one, and the love for the other, which can exist indeed, and this is the thing that you have to understand. You may suffer when the other person has the bad choice of going away, the bad choice of choosing another person, the bad choice of living the life before you are prepared to it. Maybe it happens and you have to suffer for that. Maybe. I don't think it is suffering. It's hurting, It's pain. But pain is something and suffering is another thing. The pain of something that is gone is that falling in a hole. That's the pain of suffering, the grief of suffering. Suffering is another thing. Suffering is the decision of going into the hole and live there. That's suffering. And you don't need to suffer. You just need to grieve. You need to feel the pain. That's natural. That's healthy. That will help you to go ahead. But always knowing that you are again and forever able to love your life, yourself, the person that is not with you because your love goes ahead. It's not the person, but your life, your feelings, your loving is there. When you ask, how can I do? He's not more with me. I usually say, well, if you love him, if he loves you, probably a part of him is in you. And that's love. The part of the other that it stays in you.
Ну, это правда, что на самом деле любовь, она побеждает все, и даже когда человека рядом больше нет с нами, это, любовь этого человека к нам, которая, может быть, когда-то была, или которую мы до сих пор чувствуем к нему, она лечит все. That's true. Love actually conquers all, and love heals everything, and even if you might not be together anymore, you still, the love that you had felt from that person, or the love that you feel for that person still, even though you're not together, that helps heal. Но все же, даже мы забегаем немножко вперед, но несколько наших пользователей, они в разных вариантах спрашивают один и тот же вопрос. Все-таки, если приходится расстаться, если любовь прошла, и остается боль, как избавиться от этой боли, которая существует после развода? Well, and we're skipping ahead a little bit to the questions of our users, but you know, still a lot of them ask this question, and you talk about pain. How to get rid of that pain when you do have to separate and you're hurting, and the hurt is not going away? What do you do?
That's the most important question. That's the most important question, because that is the question that everybody asks, and the answer is not so good, you know. Because the problem is, why do you want to get rid of the pain? You don't have to get rid of the pain. You have to live it. It's a part of your life.
Боль болит, знаете, хочется, чтобы не болело. Hurt hurts. You want to not experience hurt in your life.
Yes, that's the thing that we are trained to think. That hurt is something bad, that you are supposed to be in a world with no sufferings, with no pain, with nothing to hurt, and that's not true. You know, pain is the other hand of pleasure. It's the other side of the coin. You cannot have one side of the coin, only one side of the coin. You have to have both. If you are able to enjoy, you are able to be pain. If you are able to have the pleasure of life, then you have to grieve some things. It's part of the life. It's part of yourself. The idea of our education, maybe because our parents doesn't want us to suffer. The idea is that we don't have to suffer at all. We don't have to suffer. Then you are going through life, you know, and that's not true. Let me tell you one thing, that it's a real story, not a story in the sense of a story, but a real thing that happened. One time, a woman came to my office who was a patient, and for a year she was talking about his dead son. You know, the death of a son, the death of a daughter is the worst thing a person can pass. There's nothing worse in the life. You know, it's very hard to explain that, because you know the pain is so great and so heavy that it's very difficult to go ahead with that. And for a year we talk about his son and the death of his son, and we talk about the things that she could do and she couldn't do, until one day she came and said, I cannot stand it anymore. I cannot live with this. I don't know what to do. Please help me. I cannot stand it anymore. Do something, because I don't know how can I go ahead. And then it was really very difficult for me. I didn't know what to say, because there's not much things to say to a person that had losing his child. And so I have an idea, a strange idea with that it was, I thought that maybe it was good for her. I take an aspirin in my hand, and I said, look, I have this magic pill to give you. And she smiled a little bit, and I said, no, it's a magic pill, you know. If you want it, I will give it to you, and you will end your suffering. And she looked at me and said, are you kidding? No, I'm telling you the truth. It will take your suffering out of your mind forever. Well, give it to me, she said. I must tell you how it acts, maybe, because you will have to choose if you want the pill. And she said, I want it. I don't want to know how act it. And I tell you, maybe it's better for you to know. If you take the pill, you will borrow the memory of your son. You will live from now on as if you never have known him. And then you will not suffer anymore. And then she said, oh no, I don't want to take the pill.
Ну, вы знаете, эта история такая, знаете, выбор между крайностями. Либо жить с воспоминаниями и, знаете, страдать от боли, которые эти воспоминания причиняют, либо вообще не иметь воспоминаний совсем. Вот неужели нет какой-то вот территории между этими двумя крайностями? This is a story about two extremes. On the one extreme we have the memories and the pain that these memories cause. On the other hand, we have no memories at all, as if nothing had happened. Is there not a territory between these two extremes? Because these extremes
Of course it is. It's the natural suffering, the pain of a loving person that is not with you. That's the normal thing. That's exactly the point. Not suffering to death and not forgetting the thing. Just being and living the pain of the loved person that is not with that. And the solution is time. As the book says, you have to wait. You have to suffer, you have to be pain, you have to live your grief, and that is a time process. Because any process has to have time, and you have to give time. But we don't want. We live in a society that suffering. We are phobic about the suffering. We are suffering phobics. We just want to skip suffering. We don't want to have it. We don't want to know it. We are used to think that the best thing for our children, and it's a very bad thinking, is not suffering anymore, no frustration. No frustration. Everything they got, everything they want, we are just running to give it to them. And we don't know that that is not good for them. Frustration, suffering, pain, grief, that is the way where the people goes. That is the way. And we are trying to find out the way of not doing that. That's a crazy thing, That's a crazy thing. That's we are coming back to the hedonist ideas that pleasure is the only thing that means in life. And that's not true. That's not true, my friend. That's not true. You have to understand that in life you will have all the colors, all the feelings, all the impressions, and that is the way that you have to do. You have to deal with your griefs, because in your griefs it's the key to your growing as a person. You are who you are because you are not who you were. And maybe you didn't have the notice of that and you didn't suffer that change, but you will. Sometime in your life, you are very young, sometime in your life you will look back and you say, but that is not sense. Life is just an evolution, and maybe I don't know, maybe sometime will come when we understand that suffering is not something to go away of, but something to learn how to live with.
Получается, что вы говорите, что боль – это хорошо. Но все же, есть ли какое-то мерило, когда, наконец, стоит прекратить страдать и пытаться все-таки облегчить свою боль, чтобы, знаете, есть люди, которые годами, десятилетиями даже не могут избавиться от боли, и это уже превращается в такую патологию, в такую хронику. Как понять, говорится, как помочь себе понять, где граница и где вообще остановиться и попытаться все-таки избавиться от нее? So what you're saying basically is pain is good, and it teaches us things and we grow from it. But some people...
I don't know if I'm saying, I'm sorry, I don't know if I'm saying it's good. I'm saying it's necessary. I'm not saying it's good. What makes suffering unsustainable is the idea that it is forever, that you will never pass through it, that you will stay there forever. That's the unsustainable idea. And what I'm telling you is that if you go in it, if you go inside your pain, then the pain will pass.
Об этом и был мой вопрос, на самом деле. То есть как знать, то есть ты вошел в боль, и ты в ней. Как знать, что пора уже выходить? So that was actually the question I didn't get a chance to finish with. So some people experience it for years, for tens of years, for decades. And so how do you know? You're in the pain, you've entered the pain, and you're in it. How do you know when it's time to get out and move on?
You have nothing to know, because it's not a problem of knowing. It's not a question of an intellectual decision. Okay, it's time now to get ended the suffering. No, I think that the things can. The point is you have nothing to do to get rid of that suffering. The only thing that you have to do is not doing things to prolong it, to make it go ahead. You have to do things not to them to be with you. Let's say, for example, how many times have you to pain the death of a husband? Let's say, why not? Let's put an example. You don't have times, of course. You don't have times, fixed times. You don't have, but more or less you have to be the times that are never less than a year and a half, and strangely more than 2 years and a half. That's more or less. That's, let's say, normal times. Let's say. If you are fine and especially good and happy of your life at the 6 months of the death of your husband or your wife, it's okay. That's you. It's okay. It will be strange. I will be surprised for that. But maybe you can do it in the time. Why not? It could be. But if it happens 3 years and you are still spaining the absence of that person, it's because there's something there that you are not doing in the right way, just to let the suffering go. You are retaining it. You are doing things just to be there. You are decided to live in that hole. I don't know why. It depends. That's what therapy can do for the people that is suffering in grief. The therapy is not good to avoid suffering. It's not good to avoid the pain, to avoid the sadness of the death of a beloved person. There's nothing to do with that. There's no medication for that. Therapy is just for knowing that not to get tied to that person that is not there. Not to recyclate the suffering, just to be there. Just to let the people go. To let the dead people go. That's letting them go. What do I have to do to let go? You don't have to do nothing to let go. You just have to let it go. You don't have to do. What have I to do to let this glass to fall again? I have nothing to do. I don't have to do nothing. If I just stop in hanging it, it will flow. I will not do it. But if I just flow it, it will go down. That is the letting go attitude.
Ну, to letting go. Значит, за то, чтобы, наконец, мы, в конце концов, научились отпускать. Но вы знаете, все-таки, значит, получается, что психотерапия – это не способ избавиться от боли, а всего лишь такая, знаете, профессиональная помощь для тех случаев, когда боль уже слишком стала хронической, и человеку нужно немножко помочь выкарабкаться из нее, когда она уже стала сама себя, зацикливаться на самой себе. So it turns out that then psychotherapy is not a way to get rid of the pain, it's just to help a person who got stuck in the pain and can't get out, to help that person get out of the pain when it became cyclical. Ну, а скажите, единственный ли способ выбраться из боли это использовать психоанализ? То есть, другими словами, можно ли попытаться познать себя и избавиться от боли без помощи психоаналитика? И как это лучше сделать? So then the question is psychoanalysis and working with a therapist the only way to get rid of the pain? And if you can do it by yourself, how can you do it?
Psychotherapy is never the only way, in any case. Never is the only way. It's one way. Maybe it's a way to which you have to go when you have tried the other things. When you have tried the help of your friends and it was not enough. When you have tried the embrace of your family and was not enough. When you have to be, when it was not enough, your own way of living with grief, then you will go to a therapist. Of course, that there are people that go through a grief without help, with their own help, with the help of the friends, with the help of the family, with the help of their own ways of being their life. Of course they are. I don't think that therapy is, I don't think that never therapy is the only way that you have to be. And by the way, I don't think that anyone needs therapy, as some people think. I don't think that. I think that there are things that you have to do, and we have published here some things about that grief, because in this book it speaks about some of these things. And I must tell you that the next book that will be in Russia about my own writing is named The Way of Tears, and it's a book that talks about that things, about what to do, what can I do, what shouldn't I do, and especially what can I do to help others that is suffering. And that's the point. That's the point, and it's a very good point. The thing is, of course, first of all, don't get attached. Don't get attached. Just learn how to love without getting attached.
Но как? Все-таки ведь любовь это и есть связь. Как можно любить без привязанности к человеку? Ну тогда это, наверное, не любовь, а что-то другое. But that, how do you love without being attached to a person? Because love is an attachment. Maybe if you're not attached, it's not love. Maybe it's another thing.
I'm not talking about your way of loving, my friend. I'm talking about love.
Yes, but, ну, да, но как бы все же, что такое любовь, это может быть вопрос, который мы задаем себе на протяжении всей своей жизни. So, what is love? That's a question that we ask all life long.
Very good. That's the first question, my friend. That's the first question. Because if we go ahead with the idea of that loving is attached, then when the other person is not there, we are in problems. We are in problems. Really, we are in problems. But maybe there is another way of loving that is not the attached way. Maybe we have to learn to love in freedom. Because as I understand loving, love needs freedom to be there. Freedom, absolutely freedom. That means that maybe love is not the way of dependence one on the other, of not being able to love without you, of not being happy when you are not with me. Maybe the measure of life is not the things that I can sacrifice for you, but the things that we can enjoy together. Maybe this is a new point. You know, it's not easy to define love, but anyway, I will try to do it, and I want to state first that this is my idea. My idea is not the only way, it's not the best, it's not the truth, it's not the healthy way, it's just my way. I think that love is the decision of working for the freedom of someone, so that he can decide whatever he likes, even if it's not with you.
Но это, как сказать, трудно смириться с такой мыслью. Когда любишь, ну, естественно, мне кажется, желание максимально сблизиться, даже стать одним, вот, чем-то вот единым целым с объектом твоей любви. That's a difficult proposition, because when you love, the most overwhelming desire is to become one with the person you love.
Who says so? Who says so? You?
Ну, наверное, опыт человечества так это подтверждает. Perhaps the experience supports that.
You are putting those two things together that are not the same. If you want, I want to explain, because it's the biggest problem that loving person came to see in a therapist is this one that you are talking to me now, and I'm grateful you for planning it, because everyone that is seeing this note thinks exactly the same when I say that, so you give me the opportunity to make this clear. And so I thank you very much for doing that. One thing is to love, another very different thing is falling in love. When you fall in love, your vision of the world is changed. You cannot live without the other. You want to be one with the other. You want to mix your lives, your fluids, your sights, your clothes, and your days and your nights, and that's good. When you fall in love with someone, that's a perturbation in your mind, that niceless perturbation of your mind that you can feel, and for 15 days, maybe 20 days, maybe a month, if you are lucky 3 months, that's all, my friend. For that time, you cannot live without the other, and it's true. But this is falling in love. Loving is not that. Loving is another thing. Because, may I show you something, maybe you can understand. You have to tell me if you can see this, because if you cannot see it, then the people that will not understand this this point. This is a pen, okay? It's a pen. This is a paper, okay? I will show you like that. Okay. This is the height of love. This is. And this is falling in love. Yeah? You understand that? It's clear?
Yes.
This is the difference. Can you translate this for the people? This is love, and this is falling in love.
Значит, вот первая позиция – это позиция любви, а вторая – это позиция влюбленности. Ага.
And of course, if we have to choose, we always will choose falling in love because it's so intense and so great.
То есть, если мы выбираем между, значит, влюбленностью и любовью, мы должны, как бы, выбираем влюбленность, потому что ее просто больше.
But this is only the appearance.
Но это всего лишь видимость.
Because if you see the hidden part of the thing,
потому что если посмотреть с другого конца,
then you will see
вы увидите,
that falling in love
что влюбленность
is very intensive, but no deep at all.
Очень интенсивна, но в ней нет глубины.
And loving is not so intensive,
а любовь не так интенсивна,
but it has the deeper, you know, it's deeper.
но в ней есть глубина.
It's not so intense, but it's deeper.
Да, она не так интенсивна, но она глубже.
And so you have to understand that relationships last in the time, not because they are intensity, but because they are deeper.
То есть, как бы, ну, что ли, ручка, она одного размера. То есть мы видим больше ручки во влюбленности, мы видим меньше ручки, говорится, в любви. Но и поэтому одна из них, значит, в одном варианте у нас недостаточно, говорится, вот глубины, а в другом у нас ее много. Ну а что если эти чувства не одинаковы? So in this example, you're using the pen, and the pen is of the same length. So in falling in love, we see more of the pen, and there is not a very deep end of it. And in love, we see very little of the pen, but there is depth. But that's supposing that the feeling from which falling in love and love happens, they're of the same size. What if they're radically different?
I understand. You're able to feel yours, you're able to feel, and the one that is seeing is always the same. Your capacity is always the same. That's why you can make this one or this one, and then you have that deep or no deep at all. But the point is that people that wants to be in love always are superficial. You know that people that is always falling in love, he will find you in the street and say, "Oh, I'm so in love, that's great. Finally I find the person of my life, the love of my life, and I will be forever with her." And then 2 weeks again, 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks again, and you find it again and say, "Now I find it, but you haven't found it last week." No, that was not. I believe that was, but that was not. Now I am with the person, and she is the person, and he will introduce it to you, and 3 weeks after that, she will never forget about that. You understand?
Понятно.
So, for each person, falling in love is different than loving. But don't worry, there is a situation, a big situation, that sometimes when you are in love with someone, and that's great, you know, it's great. It happens in marriage 10 years afterwards that the marriage. Sometimes when you love someone, you can get in love with him or with her for 15 or for a month. And then for that 15 days, that's great. You have the intensity and the deepest. And that's great.
Ну, это только, наверное, самые счастливые пары испытывают. Perhaps only the luckiest couples can have both.
Not the luckiest, the mature one.
Ага, мудрые. Окей, mature ones. Ну, на самом деле, интересная какая-то такая обратная сторона любви – это ненависть. Вы знаете, и... ненависть. Так вот, некоторые, вот даже читатели задают нам вопрос о ненависти. Вот мы все время говорим о любви, а обратная сторона любви – это ненависть. Вот как... И даже говорят, что ненависть – это большая проблема для тех, кто ее испытывает, чем для тех, кому ее испытывают. Вот вы согласны и почему? И как вообще избавиться от ненависти, если ненависть – это плохо? So, you know, the other side of the coin of love is hate. And hate is something that some people may feel as strongly as they felt love towards somebody. And, you know, they say that hate actually hurts the person who's hating much more than the person who is hated. And so if hate is bad, how do we get rid of the feeling of hate that naturally sometimes happens?
First of all, I'm sorry for this. In reality, the opposite feeling of love is not hate.
No.
I'm sorry to say that. We have to learn altogether that hate is, you know, it's another feeling. It's another feeling. It's not the opposite.
No, может быть. Maybe. But still, how do you get rid of it?
Yes.
Как от него избавиться?
How to get rid of it? How to get rid of it? That's the point, the important point. Maybe.
Да.
Maybe we think that hate is a consequence of the result of someone that is not good with us, or someone that is not treating us as we want to be treated, or someone that has abandoned us. Maybe that's the way, you know. There is a story in one of my books about love. No, not love. Sad and furious and hate, you know. And they said that the sad and the hate will come in the water to wash them, to bath, to take a bath. And then when they end it, the hate goes first, and he was almost blind with the bath, and he put the clothes of the sad, and then he went away. And the sad, when he came out of the water, she has no clothes, and then he put on the clothes of the hate. And then that's why, said the story, sometimes you find out a furious man or woman full of hate, but if you look inside, he is not full of fury, he is full of sadness. But it's disguised.
То есть получается, что ненависть — это какое-то другое чувство чаще всего, которое может быть под видом другого, ну, вернее, которое скрывает другие чувства. So it seems like you're saying that hate is often disguised as hate, but it's not hate.
Sometimes hate is the election not to be sad. Prefer to be furious than to be sad, because we can manage better the hate than the sadness. When you, let's imagine a man goes home and finds his wife with another man, and then he is furious. But really, he's not furious. He's sad. He has to be sad. If he really loves her, he has to be sad, not furious. What's the furious doing there? What for? The furious. What is he doing? He is losing the fidelity of his wife. What is the reason of the furious? There's no reason. He's sad, but he cannot manage this sad, so he changed it to the furious. But there is another feeling that is changed to hate and to furious. That is impotence. Impotence. You say impotence in English? Whatever the word is.
Impotence, yeah, беспомощность.
When you cannot do nothing to change the situation. You cannot do nothing to change the situation. Sometimes when you are sad, or when you can do nothing to change the situation, that you get furious. With who? With the situation? No. With yourself. With you. That you cannot change the situation. Because you suppose that you have to change the situation, each situation. And when you cannot do it, if you are not able to understand and to support your own impotence in some things, then you will become hateful. You know, you will be full of hate. Let's look at the people that are hateful. Look at the people that hates a lot, and you will find an impotent man, an impotent woman that couldn't stand his impotence.
То есть получается, что причины всех чувств, даже если они направлены на другого человека, они, в принципе, внутри нас самих. So as it turns out, the cause of all feelings, even if they're directed at somebody else, they're primarily within us ourselves.
Well, in general, it's like that because you know you are not able to see things in the others if you cannot see it in yourself first. And that's the way of healing them, of course. But when you ask me what to do with hate, I will tell you, accept that there are things that you cannot do, and then your hate will disappear.
Окей, хороший совет. Ну, вы знаете, перед тем, как перейти к вопросам читателей, у нас есть, говорится, традиционные вопросы, которые мы задаем от имени рекомендательного сервиса Imhanet. Вот рекомендательный сервис Imhanet, это, значит, он формируется на вкусовых предпочтениях единомышленников. И вот вы лично знакомы с рекомендательными сервисами? You know, before we transition to the questions from our users, you know, we're hosted by Imhanet, which is a user recommendation service, and it's based on shared tastes by people who feel, process, think the same about the world. So are you familiar with user recommendation services like that?
I think that each possibility of the communication between people are welcome. I think that this is one of the problems that we have. You know, the problems of the world are changing, and the therapists used to think, and I agree with that are changing each 20 years, more or less 20 years. The problematic of the world it's changed, and then we have to take mind on other things. Nowadays, on my way of being in life, I think that we have two problems in the world. I'm not speaking especially about Russian, Asiatic, East American society. I'm talking about humanity in it all. And I think that there are two problems that we have to solve. One is our, you know, our crisis. I will take the word crisis because it's the perfect word for that. Of values, moral values. We have our moral values in crisis now in the world. And that's why nothing is good or wrong. Nobody knows if that is good. The economical problem. You have to kill your neighbor to take his house, or you don't have to kill it. No, you don't have to kill it. Well, but you know, that's a crisis value in the world. That means that some people is thinking if it is good to go on the things of the other just because I don't have them. You understand that? That is something that is running in the mind of a lot of people. And what are the things that I can do to be successful or not? It's good or it's bad to do things. Well, there are a lot of things around that, meaning that we have a problem with our moral values. And the second point is we have a problem between the tendency of the isolation of people. You know, people is going to be more and more isolated each time. We have problems with that. We have problems. And then here comes this virtual world of Internet, and have to do with these 2 points. Internet is there to take care of these 2 points, and it's very interesting what is happening. On one hand, it's making a communication between people more easy. You can communicate even with each one in every world, in every time of the world. You know, it's great. It's a big tool, but maybe you are at home and you never get out of your home, believing that you are getting introduced with the others, you are communicating with the others. But there is another type of communication that you need. So Internet is good. Of course it's good, but that's its problem. What about values? You can discuss your values with others, you can talk with them, but nobody is there really, or you don't know who is really there and who is not. And so maybe there are people that are talking with another for years not knowing who the other is really. So Internet, the web, Facebook, those kind of things will have to help us to solve this question. We have to use it to solve these problems. But maybe if we don't solve it, they will become a bigger problem because of them. So we have to take care with this.
Ну да, это на самом деле более такой философский подход к делу, но на самом деле, говорится, здесь вопрос может быть немножечко не такой глубокий, и в принципе вот такого рода сервис, где люди не знают, например, вот что в мире есть, какие вот, может быть, фильмы, книги, какая музыка, и они как бы полагаются на мнение людей, им подобных, чтобы выбрать, значит, свой досуг, либо выбрать те, значит, фильмы, книги, музыку, которая им могла бы понравиться. Вот на таком более простом уровне, вот как вы относитесь к таким рекомендательным сервисам, пользуетесь ли ими и какими из них? Well, perhaps your question was much more deep and philosophical than your answer, rather, was much more deep and philosophical than the question. But on a basic and a simple level, you know, if you have certain tastes and certain values, you know, it's good to know the opinion of people who share your values as you're choosing your leisure. You know, your books, the music, the films that you might like, based on the opinion of people who might like the same thing. So do you use, you know, and so in that way, it's a useful thing to have the internet recommendation services like Mhanet. And so do you use any, and which ones, if you do?
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't. By the way, I don't. And I don't because I have to admit, I'm sorry to say, I'm 62. I'm 62. And I came late to these things, you know. When I see my daughter, my son, my grandson that's 4 years old working for the computer, I'm so astonished of his. They were born with that, you know. So as I didn't know how to manage that, and I cannot deal with this anonymous world of internet, I don't have a Facebook. I don't have a Twitter. I have an email address because I wouldn't live without that nowadays. I assume that, and it's good. And I'm very happy to be here with you, using this kind of media to get to your ears and to your eyes. That's very good, really. I appreciate that. But you know, I need. That's maybe a professional deform in mind. I need to have some kind of control about the things and understanding of the things that I do. And my understanding ends with the facts. From the facts on, I didn't understand anything, how it works, how it done, how to fix it when it goes out, you know. And so it's very difficult for me. So I don't use any of these media, of these social media groups. I don't do it. In spite of, I know that there are 6 Facebook sites that they say are me. They say they are Horke Bukay. You know, 6 of them. I'm none of them, by the way. I have no Facebook site. But you know, there are a lot of people that says that he is me and answer and says, and what can I do? I cannot deal with that. So one thing that I can do to deal with that is I don't have a Facebook, I don't have a Twitter account, so don't believe it's me because it's not me, you know. But I think that for some people it's very important, very, very important. It's, you know, for a lot of things, internet has been literally the difference between death and life. And I'm very grateful for that. And I think that we have a lot of things to see.
Ну, вы знаете, еще вот, хоть вы и не пользуетесь интернетом сами, вот все-таки пару вопросов еще связанных с интернетом, даже если, вот, может быть, чисто теоретически. Вот рекомендательный сервис Mhanet, он внедряет такую социальную практику, которая делает возможным для всех желающих, ну, отблагодарить, что ли, людей, которые их вдохновляют. То есть есть спасибо, нажав которую человек может выразить благодарность любимому автору в денежном эквиваленте, то есть, ну, грубо говоря, послать человеку деньги, и они пойдут прямо вот к автору. Вы вообще сталкивались с подобной практикой, и вообще как вы к ней относитесь, что вы профессионально думаете по этому поводу? Well, even though you're not using the internet, just a couple more internet-related questions, since we are on the speaking on the internet, and even if only theoretically, I wanted to ask you about this. Mhanet is using this special practice in Russia. It's new. It makes it possible for anybody who wants to say thank you to their favorite author or a musician by pressing the button and sending whatever amount of money they wish to send to their author just by way of thanking them because they inspired them. So my question. First,
I have to tell you that I'm not against this. I'm just saying I'm very old for that. And I cannot deal with that. I'm not against it. I'm very happy. And I hope that the people that say it want to ask him something, and I can answer them thanks to this media, of course.
Wonderful. No, so that's the thing. Have you? Well, this practice is being used in Russia right now to be able to thank authors and musicians. So, have you heard of a similar practice elsewhere, maybe outside of Russia? What do you think about it? And as a professional, what are your feelings about it?
I think that everything that is a tool to get the people in touch, in real touch, is great, is good, and you have to improve it. And think that this is a really very important thing to do. By the way, I must admit, as I told you, that I have my limitations. You know, when you grow up, there are a lot of things that you know and a lot of things that can, you know, like structures in your mind. For example, I do need the book to read. I do need a book to read. I cannot read in this screen of the internet. I would like to do it. It would be easier. Of course it would be. But I cannot. I have to admit it. I need the physical book to read. So that's things that I cannot access. I'm not angry. I don't hate the people that do it, as I told you, because I accept my impotence. You know, that is a good example. But I would like to do it. And the only ways, when I receive a mail and I have to read it, and it's a long mail, I have to print it. Can you believe it? I have to print it, because if I don't print it, if I don't see the letters printed in my hand, then it's difficult for me to understand. That's my limitation. What can I do? I write in a computer, by the way. I write in a computer. But to look what I wrote, I have to print it.
Ну, это, говорится, по крайней мере, вы пользуетесь теми, может быть, удобствами, которые интернет все-таки может нам предоставить. Well, at least you're using, to whatever extent you can, the things that internet, the ways in which internet does make our lives a little bit more convenient.
Of course, I tell you, I would never write my last 5 books if I didn't have a computer, a laptop to travel with me. Because I write a lot in the airports. I travel a lot by plane. I have long travels through the Pacific and through the Atlantic. If I haven't my portable netbook, I will never write. My last 5 books wouldn't exist without a computing system. I know that.
Ну вот, все-таки, значит, интернет очень помогает нам в нашей жизни. So internet does help us a lot in our lives. И еще один вопрос, связанный с интернетом. Вот, вы знаете, в России очень развито электронное пиратство. И у писателей, у музыкантов очень неоднозначные чувства на этот счет. Многие даже предпочитают это, ну, как единственный доступный им выход на широкую аудиторию. Как вы лично относитесь к этому? And so another internet-related question then. In Russia, electronic piracy is very prolific, you know, and actually there is not a single way to treat this, and lots of writers and musicians actually kind of prefer this because they feel that this is their only way to reach a wide audience, you know, not making them pay for their book, but basically coming out to a wide market to reach lots of people before they become, you know, established. So what are your feelings about electronic piracy in that regard?
You know, when there is nothing to do, you have to do nothing. And you must understand this, because this is something that I learned when I work as a clinical medical doctor. There are patients where you have nothing to do, really. And when you have nothing to do, then you have to do nothing. So we have to admit our impotence with that, and don't become furious with that. We cannot do nothing with that, and that is something that you have to understand. I think that as all the things, in some ways, is a good thing, because, you know, really there are some people that cannot give to my ideas or to my thoughts if it's not this way, and I understand that, and I agree with them. On the other hand, you know, the people that lives on this job of creating, of writing, of composing, of playing music, they have to live. They have to live for something. They have to do something for living. And the thing that they do for living is writing books or writing music or playing music. And if nobody pays for it, then What are they going to live for? And the worst of all, if they disappear, what will we do without musicians? Right? I'm really afraid of that. I'm really afraid. I know we can live without Bukai's book, but what are we going to do without the music? I'm very sad with that. I think it's a problem, and we don't have the solution for that yet. Maybe we will find the chance. Now we are getting again the live concert of the artist, and that's good, but it's not enough. So maybe we will find another solution for that. I don't know which will be the solution, but I think it's a problem. I understand the point, but well, I don't have the solution. I never download the music in the internet, but not because it's a time of moral principles, because it's not my way of doing it. As I love books, I like music, and then when I basically hear opera, basically, and so really to hear opera, that you have to hear and go there and go there, then you need the CD with you. So it's not my business, but I understand, and I understand also that maybe for some people that once let's go back in the years. Let's say 20 years ago, you had to buy a long play, as we call the long play, just to hear one song. The only song that is interesting for you is only one. The only one that you have to hear, and you had to buy all the long play, and it was not cheap. It was not cheap. And so this comes to solution that way. Then now you can choose the thing that you want to hear, and maybe sometime naturally you can buy just that song. And it's not bad if you say it that way. The point is, when the musicians cannot have the money of their composing, the money of their playing, the money for the work, that's a bad thing. I don't know what is the solution. Maybe the internet have to sustain and support all the musicians in the world. Why not? Maybe that will do.
Ну, вы знаете, наше время все-таки, как это не жаль, осознавать, подходит к концу. И есть ли что-то, что вы хотели бы в заключение сказать, всем тем, кто был сегодня с нами, а также всем вашим читателям? Unfortunately, as sad as we are to admit it, our time together is nearing its end. And is there something that you might like to say to people who were with us today, or who might see it later, or to your readers, in conclusion?
First of all, I want to thank them all, because for me, I was born in Argentina. That's a place very far from here and very far from everywhere, and to be published in Russia, and especially to be read in Russia, it's such a great honor. I cannot explain that in words. I feel very, very proud of it, especially because I know that a lot of young people read my books in Russia. So I'm so proud and so grateful with them, especially because some months ago I was in a book fair, and they asked me to sign an invitation for the people to read, and then I write a sentence that I'm using from them because I like what I said, and I agree each moment with that. I wrote there, read because reading will become you wiser, and our future depends on it. And I think that this is the message. I think that we have to read. We have to read a lot. We have to read a lot of things. Of course, I'm not talking about my books. I'm talking about reading, of course. And when I said read more, I'm not talking about only the books. I'm talking about the media, I'm talking about the books, I'm talking about the newspapers, I'm talking about reading. I think that really is the passport of wisdom, and I think that our future depends on becoming more wiser.
Ну что ж, будем продолжать читать и работать над собой. На этом наша встреча подходит к концу. Мы благодарим Хорхе за то, что он смог сегодня с нами встретиться, а также мы приглашаем всех посетить сайт сервиса Имханет, где в ближайшее время будут объявлены имена 3 счастливых обладателей книги Хорхе Букая «Все не закончено» с автографом автора. И в заключение мы хотели бы также поблагодарить Дом книги «Зингер» за оказанную поддержку этой встречи. С вами был Сергей Гордеев. До новых встреч на МХНет.